one of the pieces I was reading about The Lovely Bones was talking about the book and the omniscient narrator, and the idea that, oh, it's just so easy, you know, to have an omniscient narrator. And I'm wondering, it's not that easy, is it, to take a book like this that just wanders willy-nilly wherever it wants to and turn it into a movie that has the kind of rules that the audience can understand?
Well, I mean, the book, that's a very complicated question, actually. You managed to cover a lot of ground. I mean, the thing with the narration, which is interesting in the novel, and when you don't really think about it until you have to adapt it into a film, and then the thoughts, obviously, you have to start to work out the logic, but the narration seems to come from two different points of view. One, there's a narration that comes from some distance in the future. So it's a narration that could be 20 years' time. So, you know, Susie's looking back on her life and her death and saying, you know, I was 14 years old in 1973 when I was murdered. Now that, you know, that's a narration from the distant future where things are okay. And we like that because it also immediately puts the audience into an interesting frame of mind. You know, one, you're instantly setting up tension because you now know that the girl that you're seeing on the screen is going to get murdered at some stage quite soon in the film, so you immediately got people starting to feel tension. But you're also saying, in a way, but it's okay because she's just told us that that's what happens, so however it ends up, it's going to end up in a place that's okay. But then there's also a form of narration that happens in the book, and we use it in the film, which is much more present and immediate, as if she's narrating the situation as it's unfolding. So there's two very different points of view with the narration, and it's interesting because when Saoirse recorded the narration for us, we actually did, you know, she was doing it two different styles. She was doing it slightly younger and obviously with dramatically more intense when she was talking about things that were happening there and then to her. And then when we did the more, you know, the older narration from the future, she actually deliberately put on a slightly more mature voice and a slightly older voice. Now these are very subtle things, but they were, you know, they were the things that we had to think about as we were adapting and making a movie.
So you have a balance in the film between heaven, or what you call the in-between, and the present reality. And it's an interesting question of how you portray the different visual states in heaven. What was your intention there?
Well, just to clarify the heaven thing, because it's a kind of a key to how we approached it. In this, and some of this is in the novel too. We're not taking credit for it really, because most of the clues for how this plays out was in Alice's novel. But heaven is what Susie calls wide heaven, and it's almost like that's the goal, that's the place of comfort in which we're all going to end up going to this place, and it's safe, it's secure, it's okay. But that's not what we're depicting in the movie. We're depicting this limbo which is between life and heaven. It's called the in-between. And in our movie you do get a glimpse of heaven from a distance, and towards the end of the movie there's a scene in a field where some of Mr. Harvey's previous victims come down from heaven, and they come to greet Susie and you know, to give her an opportunity to move on because she's been stuck in the in-between, and to go with them. And heaven is nothing more than a golden light, which we deliberately just used quite a cliched version of heaven. We don't go in there, we don't see what it looks like, because that was one thing that I wanted audiences to just put whatever they chose to put into that golden light, and that be heaven.